Imagine being trapped in a space barely wider than your shoulders, surrounded by hundreds of people, with no way out. This was the reality for those caught in the 2022 Itaewon crowd crush. We'll examine how a 4-meter wide alley became the epicenter of a tragedy that shocked South Korea and the world. On Halloween night, the narrow streets of Itaewon bustled with revelers, their festive energy palpable in the air. But as the crowd swelled, the 4-meter wide alley transformed into a deadly trap. The joyous atmosphere quickly gave way to panic and desperation as people found themselves unable to move or breathe. In the end, at least 158 lives were lost, and many more were injured in one of South Korea's worst peacetime disasters. This catastrophe wasn't the result of a single factor, but rather a perfect storm of physical, social, and psychological elements. In this video, we'll unravel the complex web of circumstances that turned a night of celebration into tragedy and explore how such a devastating event could occur in the heart of Seoul. The perfect storm. The Itaewon tragedy unfolded in a seemingly unremarkable location, a narrow alley nestled between bustling streets and vibrant nightlife. This 4-meter wide passage, barely wider than a car, became the epicenter of a disaster that shocked the world. To understand how such a small space could claim so many lives, we must first examine the physical environment that set the stage for this catastrophe. Picture yourself standing at the entrance of this alley. The walls rise up on either side, creating a claustrophobic corridor that stretches for about 40 meters. As you look down its length, you can see how the slight downward slope adds an extra element of risk. This incline, though subtle, played a crucial role in the unfolding tragedy. The alley's design created a dangerous bottleneck effect. As crowds poured in from both ends, the narrow width and sloping terrain made it increasingly difficult for people to maintain their footing and personal space. The physical pressure experienced by individuals in the crowd reached alarming levels, with maximum crowd pressure recorded at 1961 nm. This extreme force is enough to cause severe injury or even death, illustrating the perilous conditions that developed that night. Adding to the hazardous environment were the surrounding structures. The alley is flanked by multi-story buildings housing bars, clubs, and restaurants. These establishments, eager to capitalize on the Halloween festivities, had expanded their operations onto the street. Some had even engaged in illegal construction practices, further encroaching on the already limited space. These seemingly minor infractions had catastrophic consequences. Temporary structures, unauthorized extensions, and makeshift seating areas all contributed to narrowing the effective width of the alley. What was already a tight space became even more constricted, leaving less room for the massive influx of revelers. The lack of emergency exits and proper crowd control measures in the area further compounded the problem. In a well-designed urban space, there would be clear escape routes and strategically placed barriers to manage crowd flow. However, the Itaewon alley lacked these crucial safety features. The absence of alternative pathways meant that once people entered the alley, they had no way out except through the same crowded entrance. As the night progressed and more people squeezed into the alley, the situation quickly spiraled out of control. The combination of the narrow space, downward slope, and lack of exits created a deadly trap. People at the center of the crowd found themselves unable to move in any direction, while those at the edges were pushed inward by the continuing influx of revelers unaware of the danger ahead. The darkness of the night further hindered individual movement and visibility. This lack of visual cues exacerbated the overall sense of panic among pedestrians. As fear spread through the crowd, behaviors such as screaming and pushing intensified the chaos, creating a circulus vitiosus effect similar to that seen in past crowd disasters. It's important to note that proper urban planning could have mitigated many of these risks. Wider pathways, strategically placed barriers, and clearly marked emergency exits are all standard features in well-designed public spaces. Regular inspections to prevent illegal construction and encroachment on public areas could have preserved the already limited space in the alley. The physical environment of the Itaewon alley created a perfect storm of factors that led to this tragedy. The narrow width, sloping terrain, surrounding structures, and lack of safety measures all combined to turn a festive gathering into a deadly crush. However, It's crucial to understand that while these physical elements set the stage for disaster, they were only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The social catalyst: crowds, COVID, and communication. The Itaewon tragedy unfolded against a backdrop of social forces that amplified the risks and contributed to the unprecedented crowd size. To fully grasp the disaster's scope, we must examine the unique social context that drew so many people to this small area on that fateful night. In the months leading up to Halloween 2022, South Korea had gradually lifted its COVID-19 restrictions. After enduring prolonged periods of social distancing and limited gatherings, there was a palpable sense of relief and excitement among the population. This pent-up desire for social interaction and celebration created a perfect storm of enthusiasm for the Halloween festivities in Itaewon. Itaewon, known for its vibrant nightlife and international atmosphere, had long been a popular destination for Halloween celebrations. However, the 2022 event was poised to be especially significant. It marked the first major holiday without stringent COVID-19 measures in place, leading to an unprecedented surge in attendance. People were eager to reclaim their social lives and make up for lost time, resulting in a crowd far larger than in previous years. The power of social media and word-of-mouth communication played a crucial role in attracting people to Itaewon. In the absence of official event organization, information about the Halloween gathering spread rapidly through online platforms and personal networks. Social media posts showcasing the festive atmosphere and promising a night of unbridled fun acted as a powerful draw, especially for young people seeking to reconnect with their peers after years of restrictions. This informal grassroots promotion created a snowball effect. As more people shared their plans to attend, it generated a sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, among others, further swelling the crowds. The lack of centralized organization meant there was no way to accurately predict or control the number of attendees, leaving authorities unprepared for the sheer volume of people who would descend upon Itaewon's narrow streets. Furthermore, the failure of local media to adequately inform the public about potential dangers associated with large gatherings contributed to a dangerous lack of awareness among attendees. In the excitement surrounding the return to normalcy, there was little discussion in mainstream channels about the risks of overcrowding or the importance of personal safety in dense crowds. This information vacuum left many revelers ill-prepared for the challenges they would face. The combination of these social factors, the release from COVID-19 restrictions, the power of social media, and the lack of public awareness, created a perfect storm that set the stage for tragedy. People flocked to Itaewon in unprecedented numbers, largely unaware of the potential dangers and unprepared for the chaos that would ensue. This social context interacted fatally with the physical limitations of the area and the governmental shortcomings we've previously discussed. The narrow alleyways and lack of crowd control measures became even more dangerous when faced with the sheer volume of people driven by social forces. The authorities' failure to anticipate and plan for such a large informal gathering was exacerbated by the rapid, decentralized spread of information through social networks. Unprepared and overwhelmed. Another crucial factor in the Itaewon tragedy, the governmental shortcomings that left authorities unprepared and overwhelmed. South Korea's emergency management structure, while robust in many areas, revealed critical gaps when faced with the unique challenges of that fateful Halloween night. At the heart of South Korea's disaster response system lies the Basic Plan on National Safety Management, or BPNSM. This comprehensive framework, overseen by the Ministry of the Interior and Safety, is designed to coordinate responses to a wide range of emergencies. However, the events in Itaewon exposed a significant blind spot in this system: informal public gatherings. The Halloween festivities in Itaewon, despite their massive scale, fell into a grey area of emergency preparedness. Unlike formally organized events with clear protocols and designated responsibilities, this spontaneous gathering lacked a specific emergency response plan. The absence of such a plan left local authorities without clear guidelines for managing the unprecedented crowds that descended upon the narrow streets of Itaewon. This oversight stems from a fundamental distinction in South Korea's emergency management system between ordinary and special events. Special events, typically large-scale organized gatherings, trigger specific protocols and resource allocations. Ordinary events, on the other hand, are expected to be managed through routine procedures. The Itaewon Halloween gathering, despite its size and potential risks, was treated as an ordinary event, falling through the cracks of this classification system. The consequences of this misclassification became tragically apparent as the night unfolded. Police response to the escalating crisis was inadequate and slow. Despite receiving 11 overcrowding-related calls between 18:34 and 22:11, authorities failed to recognize the severity of the situation until it was too late. Even after the third call reporting dangerous congestion, only 50 personnel were dispatched, a number woefully insufficient to manage the panic spreading through the dense crowd. Moreover, the authorities' response strategy was narrowly focused on enforcing laws against illegal activities and unruly behavior. This narrow approach neglected the critical need for crowd management and safety measures. The lack of detailed planning for large crowd response and insufficient police support left frontline responders ill-equipped to handle the rapidly deteriorating situation. A pivotal moment that underscores the systemic failures occurred when crowd management decisions inadvertently worsened the congestion. In an attempt to increase traffic capacity, authorities allowed pedestrians to use driveways on the South Street. This decision, made without a comprehensive understanding of crowd dynamics, intensified the flow of people into the already dangerously crowded alley, exacerbating the very problem it aimed to solve. The tragedy in Itaewon serves as a stark reminder of the importance of comprehensive emergency preparedness. It underscores the need for authorities to reassess and update their approaches to crowd management, particularly for informal gatherings that may not fit neatly into existing categories. The gaps exposed in the basic plan on national safety management call for a thorough review and update of emergency response protocols. Psychology of crowd behavior, the human mind. The psychology of crowd behavior played a crucial role in transforming a festive gathering into a deadly crush. Crowd disasters often stem from three primary motivations: traffic interruption, flight response, and mass craze. In Itaewon, all three of these elements came into play. The narrow alley created a severe traffic interruption, limiting movement and causing a dangerous bottleneck. As the situation worsened, a flight response kicked in, with people desperately trying to escape the crushing pressure. This panic then triggered a mass craze, as rational thinking gave way to primal survival instincts. The psychological effects of being in a dense crowd are profound and often underestimated. As the number of people in the Itaewon alley increased, individuals experienced a gradual loss of personal control. This loss of agency is a key factor in crowd disasters, as people begin to move involuntarily with the flow of the crowd rather than by their own volition. The phenomenon known as force chains exacerbated this loss of control. In tightly packed crowds, pushing forces accumulate and propagate through the mass of bodies. This results in extreme pressure at the front of the crowd, where individuals bear the brunt of the collective force. In Itaewon, the maximum crowd pressure reached a staggering 1961 nm, more than enough to cause severe injury or death. As the situation deteriorated, panic spread rapidly through the crowd. This escalation of fear was evident in the increasing number of police calls reporting overcrowding and injuries. The psychological distress of those trapped in the alley was palpable, with individuals screaming and pushing in desperate attempts to escape. The chaotic behavior observed in Itaewon is a textbook example of crowd turbulence. This phenomenon is characterized by unpredictable movements and varying pressures within the crowd, leading to sudden surges that can knock people off their feet. Once someone falls in such conditions, the consequences can be catastrophic, as others are forced to move over them, unable to help or avoid causing further harm. Understanding these psychological factors is crucial for effective crowd management. However, managing large crowds presents unique challenges that go beyond simple crowd control measures. It requires a deep understanding of mass psychology and the ability to maintain open communication with the crowd. One of the key difficulties in managing situations like the Itaewon tragedy is the rapid spread of panic. Once fear takes hold, it can be extremely difficult to regain control of the situation. This is why proactive measures and early intervention are so critical in preventing crowd disasters. The psychological impact of such events extends far beyond the immediate physical dangers. Survivors of crowd crushes often experience long-lasting psychological harm, including post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. The mental health consequences of the Itaewon tragedy will likely be felt for years to come, underscoring the importance of comprehensive support for survivors and witnesses. The interplay between psychological factors and the physical environment in Itaewon created a perfect storm for disaster. The narrow alley amplified feelings of claustrophobia and panic, while the large crowd size made it nearly impossible for individuals to assess the overall situation or make rational decisions. The darkness of the night further hindered visibility and contributed to the sense of disorientation and fear. Lessons learned. As we've unraveled the complex web of factors that led to the Itaewon tragedy, it's clear that this disaster was the result of a perfect storm of interconnected elements. The narrow 4-meter-wide alley, with its downward slope and lack of emergency exits, created a deadly physical environment. This was compounded by the social catalyst of pent-up desire for celebration after COVID-19 restrictions, amplified by the power of social media. The psychological factors of crowd behavior, including the loss of individual control and the rapid spread of panic, turned a festive gathering into a nightmare. But what can we learn from this tragedy to prevent similar incidents in the future? The Itaewon disaster has sparked intense discussions about crowd safety and emergency preparedness, not just in South Korea, but around the world. One of the most critical lessons is the need for comprehensive crowd management strategies. The study of the Itaewon incident emphasizes that predictive crowd management techniques must be developed to mitigate risks in high-density situations. This involves not just reactive measures, but proactive planning that anticipates potential dangers before they escalate. One of the most striking lessons from Itaewon is the importance of effective communication during a crisis. Despite numerous police calls reporting overcrowding and escalating panic, the authorities failed to respond adequately. This breakdown in communication had devastating consequences. Future emergency response strategies must prioritize clear, rapid communication channels between the public, first responders, and decision-makers. The psychological impact of crowd disasters cannot be overlooked. The study of the Itaewon incident emphasizes the need for psychological relief measures during and after such events. This includes immediate crisis counseling for survivors and witnesses, as well as long-term mental health support for those affected by the trauma. If you learned something from this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you.